I would ask you this. What is your ailment? What is the thing in your life that perhaps you wish you didn't have to deal with? And add to that, if Jesus were to walk in front of you now, right here, and ask you these very words, do you want to be well? What would your answer be? I have sciatica. So if Jesus came up to me and told me that if I wanted to be well, you better damn straight believe that I want to be well. My trips to Disney usually are involving now 2 interruptions of service plazas because I can't sit for a long period of time. I'm not going to wait around for anything if Jesus is the one that comes up to me and asks me that. Yet this is not what we hear from this man, do we? We hear from this man that for 38 years, ill, having been asked by Jesus if he wants to be well, his response was a problem. Do you want to be well? Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the waters are stirred up. And while I'm on my way, someone gets down there before me. He's definitely not Cuban, Jesus is. Because I can only imagine the response. Here is the opportunity for this man to be well, and the only thing he could come up with was a problem, not a yes. Perhaps we can say and maybe argue that he had no idea who Jesus was. Perhaps we can argue and say that he had no full knowledge of the capacity that Jesus had. Perhaps. But if someone asks you with whatever your ailment is, if you want to be well, I hope and pray that your response is yes, most especially if it is Jesus who is the one inviting you to answer. What does Jesus do? He begins and asks of this man something very important. Rise, take up your mat, and walk. And you might be thinking there or sitting, how can this ever be important? Very simply, the procedure or the process in which this man gets well, he is a part of the solution. He is not the solution, but he is a part of the solution. How easily Jesus would have said, okay, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about that mat anymore. Just get out of here. Rise, take up your mat, and go. And that led me to think how many times maybe you and I have maybe wondered that something is going to fall from the sky. How many times you and I, instead of being a solution to a problem, have been what adds to the complication of the situation. By putting all of the obstacles that oftentimes we put as an obstacle. We become blind, if you will, to think about Sunday's gospel, not being able to see what is capable, what Jesus is capable of doing. All we see are the obstacles that were there before. If Jesus is the one that is asking you, as he asked me, what he wants us to do for us, if we want to be well, our response should be yes, period, full stop. Jesus understands the implications and knows what the challenges are. We don't need to tell him. If he's coming to us, it's because he already knows. Lest we forget this very important line in the gospel story today. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been ill for a long time. Of course he knew. As he knows what is your challenges, as he knows what is your ailments, as he knows what is mine. Do you believe for a minute Jesus walks up to us unaware, ignorant of what it is that you and I ail from? And do you and I place before him more obstacles? Do we doubt? I think these are wonderful questions for us as we continue journeying through Lent. And perhaps our biggest obstacle is ourselves. This man realized very early on, I hope, that he was a part of the solution, that it wasn't just simply a given. He was a part of the solution, a part of him being well. Jesus is the purpose, as is you and I. We can't sit there like lumps on a log waiting for things to fall from the sky. That's not how it works. Jesus invites us to be a part of the solution. Jesus is the solution, but you and I are a part of it. And this man, for whatever the reason, decided that he was going to be a part of the obstacle when Jesus asked him if he wanted to be well. Maybe today, and for the remainder of what's left of our time journeying through Lent, maybe this is a good thing to think and pray about. Lord, how many times have you come to me? How many times have you asked me if I wanted to be well? How many times I've put before what you're capable of doing obstacles, more problems, insisting that maybe what I have been doing is the way and it's not working, instead of seeing your way and the way in which you invite me to. How many times have I felt or thought that whatever it is that you're going to do is going to land from the sky and like a magic trick is going to work, instead of seeing myself as part of the solution? These are great questions, ones that I hope you and I will continue to take as we continue this beautiful gamut that is left for us for Lent. That as we arrive at this time of Easter, we recognize and realize that the very same Jesus who is inviting this man to be well is the same Jesus who, resurrecting, buys us life. May we never forget that, my brothers and sisters. May we always remember the love that God has for us. If he's coming to us, he knows who we are and what's going on and what has happened. What he is asking of us is faith. Amen.